Welcome to the weather forecast on CIA TV channel. Dear friends, in today's forecast, we're going to break down what you need to know about Hurricane Erin later in this video, and why it's going to be one of the most intense storms yet. Hurricane Erin is about to become a Category 4 hurricane in the Atlantic and is rapidly strengthening as it continues to move west across the Atlantic. This could have some impacts on areas like the United States, the Lesser Antilles, Puerto Rico, and Bermuda. Now first, let's take a look at the potential for severe weather over the next few days. Starting with what's happening today, we have a slight risk of severe weather in South Dakota and a slight risk of severe weather, including areas like Wisconsin, Michigan, all the way down to Chicago and North Dakota. Everyone is at risk for severe weather today. The biggest concerns will be strong winds and large hail. However, it's worth noting that there is actually a 3% chance of tornadoes, including areas like Minnesota, Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and northeastern Iowa. We could certainly see a tornado or two today, given the current environment, and tomorrow, the severe weather threat will continue from the northern plains all the way down to the Ohio Valley. About 28 million people are at risk for severe weather tomorrow. The biggest concern will be strong winds and some isolated large hail. The chance of an isolated tornado anywhere in that danger is very low, but we think overall our tornado threat will be lower. Across the Midwest, there's a chance that there's a remnant band of storms moving through Minnesota and Wisconsin this morning. Around 11 a.m., that band will move right through Wausau. And then finally, from noon to 1 p.m., it will move down into Milwaukee and southern Wisconsin, where the strong winds will continue. And then around 3 p.m., the tornado threat is increasing. So we definitely need to keep a close eye on that threat, which is probably increasing around 3:45 p.m. just outside of Chicago. We'll be watching parts of southwest Wisconsin and northwest Illinois for the possibility of 1 or 2 isolated tornadoes. And then around 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, that threat will start to fade. So I think the overall threat will be mostly mid to late afternoon. And as we get into the late evening and overnight, the flooding concerns will increase as we could see some showers and thunderstorms from southern Wisconsin extending into Minneapolis and even back into Gary, South Dakota. So while all that's happening in the Midwest, we do expect to have isolated severe weather threats developing late this afternoon into the evening, primarily in Nebraska and South Dakota. Be prepared for isolated hail and wind. The risk of tornadoes is very low. And then as we head into Sunday, things look pretty chaotic. Just a few isolated showers and thunderstorms with the potential for hail, wind, and maybe a brief tornado. So be prepared for much warmer weather. We've got heat indexes in places like Florida at 110 degrees. Winds are also very weak, and that's really not going away anytime soon. That heat will continue for most areas east of the Rocky Mountains into next weekend. However, there could be a brief cool down if you're in the Midwest and the northern plains. And then, let's start with what's going on right now in the Atlantic. And this is Hurricane Erin. Right now, it's just about 150 miles north of the Leeward Islands. It's moving west. It's expected to stay far enough away from Puerto Rico and the Lesser Antilles where it's just going to have tropical storm impacts. But this storm, it's rapidly intensified over the last 12 hours and actually lost 4 millibars of pressure in just 1 hour, which is really crazy. And it's going to become a Category 4 hurricane, most likely tomorrow as it continues to move toward the Bahamas. Now, as we head into early next week, we're expecting this storm to still be offshore. But it's going to have some impacts on the East Coast and even areas like Bermuda. This is what it looks like across the entire Atlantic right now. Right now, Hurricane Erin is about 150 to 200 miles north of the Leeward Islands. And this is a little bit of a surprise. But we have very little chance of developing into a tropical storm over the next few days right off the coast of North Carolina. But we are now tracking at least some heavy showers back near Cape Hatteras, which is also an area where I think we're going to see a high risk of rip currents, high surf, and maybe even a brush with Hurricane Erin over the next few days. Starting from what's happening today through tonight, it's expected to become a Category 4 storm as early as late this afternoon. That's how fast Erin is strengthening right now. By tomorrow, it's going to be very close to a Category 5. The current forecast from the National Hurricane Center is for at least 145 to 150 miles per hour sustained winds by Sunday morning. So that's going to be over the next 24 hours. The storm will reach its peak intensity, with maximum wind gusts of up to 175 miles per hour. And we could see waves of up to 100 feet off the western Atlantic from this storm. The storm is expected to begin weakening as we head into Monday as it continues to move north. And then it will be far enough east of the Bahamas that it won't cause any impacts other than a tropical storm. And then the zone of unrest will continue to expand. It's likely to get closer to the United States, but it should still be far enough away from North Carolina that the impacts won't be too big. But there will still be at least some minor to moderate impacts related to the high wave heights as well as the potential for rip currents. So if you're anywhere along the East Coast this week, make sure you keep an eye on the beach flags because they'll tell you how severe the rip currents are, which I think for most of the week they'll be significant and potentially very dangerous. Now, let's talk a little bit more about when Hurricane Erin will form. Here's what it looks like tonight. It's going to be just north of Puerto Rico. As we get into tomorrow, the icon model predicts it will be down to a low pressure system below 940. It's obviously going to be moving at Category 5 strength as it approaches the Far East, just east of the Bahamas. And as we get into late Monday into Tuesday, the model doesn't take it too far from Florida. So Tuesday night, a very strong storm that's likely to be just southwest of Bermuda. By Wednesday, it's going to be moving north. And the other thing I want to point out here is that I still think it's a little bit to the west. I think the low pressure system will be moving a little bit further east. So somewhere just west of Bermuda, there's still going to be impacts, especially to areas like North Carolina on Wednesday near Cape Hatteras. By Thursday, this storm will continue to move northeast and eventually out to sea. And then we won't be talking about Erin anymore as we head into next weekend. But obviously, this is still a concern and it's very likely to have some impact on Bermuda and the East Coast over the next few days. And make sure that if you're anywhere near the beach over the next few days, you're aware of rip currents. They're very dangerous and can certainly be deadly, especially with storms of this magnitude. Right now, I'm not forecasting any hurricane impacts anywhere along the east coast of the United States. The other thing I want to point out is that after Erin, there's another tropical wave coming off the coast of Africa over the next few days. And there are some members of the team that are predicting that wave to move in the direction of the Caribbean. But it's important to note that it's actually going from the southwest of the Caribbean Sea all the way to the central Atlantic. So there's plenty of time between now and then for our next tropical wave. However, I do think that the next one or two tropical waves will either move into the Caribbean Sea or just brush over the Greater Antilles, which could obviously have an impact on the United States in the long term. So that's something to watch. But right now, the United States is not concerned about a landfalling hurricane. We will continuously update the storm situation in the next news. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on CIA TV channel.